started the recording as well. Okay, what is the basic difference between the strategy formulation stage and strategy implementation stage? As I said that before this chapter number 7, till the chapter number 6, we have dealt with the strategy formulation stage, and now we are at the stage of implementing those strategies. If somebody asks from me that what is the difference between that stage of formulating strategy and this stage of implementing strategy, so these are the basic little differences between the two processes. While thinking about the strategy formulation, so what we have done, obviously a management or an organization is required to position the forces, position the people, hire the people for the strategy formulation processes, and then obviously the effectiveness of the strategies must be taken into consideration, that what kind of strategy is effective for the organization and what is not. And definitely in that phase, primarily intellectual is needed, and primarily intellectuals mean that we need some wisdom of the related people, related managers, experts. I would take a little break for the 5 seconds, please, just for 5 seconds. Well, okay, sorry for having some little break. Okay, we need to have to look into the effectiveness of the policies in that stage, and we have based on primarily intellectual, because the wisdom of that people. So these are the definitional strategy, formulation strategy. No, it's not the definition. It is actually the main differences. What are the basic differences between the two processes? Because what we have done in the strategy formulation stage, we have only formulated strategies. We have only formulated some. We have devised some strategies to be followed on. Now here is to implement those strategies. So while establishing or while formulating the strategy, what we needed some special position forces. We needed to evaluate the effectiveness of the policies or strategies. We needed the wisdom of the experts, the primarily intellectual, what means. And we required a good intuitive and analytical skill of the experts, because if you have remember that devising the strategies or formulating strategies, you have taken the advice from the experts. So you have taken help from the people wisdom, and you have required coordination among few people. Few people means those people who are directly or indirectly related to the formulation phase. But here you are not now formulating strategies, here you are implementing strategies. So for that implementation, you need to have manage forces during the action. Now this is the action state. Let me take into consideration. Let me put it like that. This is the action stage, and the formulation stage was the before action stage. Just before action stage, we needed these kind of skills, and now you are taking actions, and for that actions, you need to have to focus on the efficiency day by day. Obviously, you are implementing a strategy, and when you are implementing a strategy, so you have to evaluate that strategy on the daily basis. So you have to evaluate the efficiency of that strategy, that that strategy, either it is giving us that required results or not. And that is based on the primarily operational, because now you're at the operations stage, you're not on the building stage, because formulating stage is the building stage of the strategy. Now you have built the strategies, now you have to operate that, and that obviously requires a special motivation and leadership skills, because every strategy, every policy would be giving you desired results until unless the people's motivations are quite high and the leadership skills are there. Because every if the leadership skills are there, every good leader can change or can turn the results. They can they can turn the negative into positives. So leadership skills also required. And last but not the least, it requires coordination among many people. This is the difference, because in formulation strategy, you need the coordination of the few people, those people who were engaged in formulating strategies. But here, you need you are at the stage of implementing strategies, so obviously you need many people to be coordinated with each other, because by implementing strategies, it means that you are taking that strategy into action, into some physical kind of activities. So those physical activities, obviously they are done by many people, and those all people should be very adequately coordinated to each other. So this is the basic differences between the strategy formulation and strategy implementation. If you have any questions, you can ask. Otherwise, I will be proceeding further, because this chapter is not that kind of difficult or technical chapters. So this is only you need to just go through the slides only. You have to just read all these slides. There's nothing kind of any technical thing in this chapter. So I think that would be not difficult for you. So this is the basic differences between strategy formulation stage and strategy implementation stage. Now, what is the nature of okay, questions that so okay, sir, okay. And the nature of strategy implementation, it means that strategy implementation problems can arise because of the shift in responsibilities, especially if strategy formulation decisions come and surprise to middle and lower level of manager. If you remember that I would have put a statement in the earlier stages that that manager is not good manager, which seldomly surprised with the actions. If your manager gets surprised, if your manager gets shocked, it means that manager is not a good manager. So this, the main thing is again repeated here, that the strategy implementation problem can arise because of the shift in responsibilities, especially if formulation decisions come as a surprise to middle and the lower level of managers. Therefore, it is essential to involve division and functional manager in strategic formulation stage. It means that when you are formulating strategies, so it is good to involve some divisional and functional manager in that process. Because if you make a strategy on the upper level of hierarchy, and after devising the strategy, you put that strategy imposed to the lower level of managers of the workforce, so that they could be very shockingly surprised, because they need many information and many resources to deal with the policies. So to keep those people which are divisional heads, which are divisional managers, which are the frontline forces, to keep them people intact with the strategy and policies. So it is better that through formulation stage, all those people should be involved in all of the phases. Now, what management issues are there which are central to the excuse me, please turn off your mic, please. आप लोग, why this noise is there, please? Okay. What are the management issues which are central in strategy implementation stage? So this is the question simply, when we are going to implement the strategies, what are the basic management issues, how they arises, and how to think about them. So there are some issues which are very focal issues while implementing the strategy. Again, I am talking about the implementing the strategy. You have made the strategy into formulation stage. Let's say in the formulation stage, you have make the strategy that we are going to enhance our chain. Let's say it is a food chain or a chain of general store. You want to enhance your general store into different cities now. So this is strategy. But implementing this strategy, what kind of different issues that may come across with the management? So first of all, establishing annual objectives, because if you are going to implement the strategy, you have to make your annual objectives to meet, because objective less actions are have no worth. If you want your actions uh, uh, mm, uh, to be rewarded accurately, so you need to have some good objectives, clearly defined objectives. Sir, all students waiting, please allow. I've allowed them. There is no in the waiting room. I think all of them are here. मेरे सामने अभी तक कोई भी वेटिंग पे नहीं है, क्योंकि मेरे पास दूसरी विंडो खुली होती है, तो वहां पे मेरे हिसाब से तो जितने लोग हैं मैंने सबको एडमिट कर लिया है. एंड इफ एनीवन इज वेटिंग फॉर मी, सो यू शुड गो एंड क्लिक ऑन समथिंग, बिकॉज जब आप क्लिक करते हो तो मेरे सामने मैसेज आ जाता है कि somebody wants to come in. So इस वक्त मेरे सामने कोई मैसेज नहीं है, so that's why I think that all of them are in the class. Okay. So you need to establish the annual objective, because with जी आपने कोई सवाल आपकी तरफ से आने लगा है, रेज हैंड हुआ है, और रेज हैंड किसकी तरफ से है ये?
Hello.
साहब, जी जी
Hello,
जी
sir.
जी जी जी.
Yeah. Hello, sir. I have a question. That, for
your
example,
your nice name please.
Murad Shirzad.
मुराद शिरा. मैं इस पे बाकी को जरा म्यूट कर दूं, ठीक है?
Okay.
जी मुराद साहब.
Sir, currently I'm working in a project, a solar power plant. So at the start of the project, we have a project manager who make the like strategy for the project, and he was trying to implement the strategy, but suddenly he gave the resignation, retired to the company. So now we have another new project manager. So wouldn't it be effect on the project if the PM or project manager change during the like construction phase of the project?
Very good question. This is very alarming for any kind of a project, that the project manager switches from his job. So when a project manager leaves the project while middle in the span of the time of the span of the project, so it needs a quite disturbance. It carries quite mismanagement by handing over and taking over kind of a process. But if organization is very well equipped, if organization is very well systematic, then these kind of little changes cannot put a significant effect on the processes. If your organization is weak, if their organizational function areas are weak, if the processes are not clear, it means that the process is not clear. Then the going outgoing manager and the coming in manager, the shift of the task to each other, that become a major problem. And if you see that in the PMP certification courses, all the focus is on what? All the focus is on the process management, that the process should be very clear. Process of the investment, process of the taking activities of the employee, process of the changes. So what kind of change management is this? So if you have read about the risk management, you have read about the communication management, you are working with the stakeholder management. So in all these kind of a management processes, the basic thing is the process. If some employee, either it is a manager, project manager, or any one of employee, if it leaves the job while in between middle of the tasks and some other comes on, so is there is any kind of a process is being explained, the process is being very well defined by shifting that task to the new manager. If the process is already explained, then the new project manager would be having no kind of issue of such kind of a change. So he can get knowledge about the project works, processes, and he get continue with the work of the previous project manager. But if the process is not clear, if the system is lacking this information, if your project charter, if your what we can say that there is some kind of a documentation is there. If your organization is not having that kind of a process in policies, in form of policy, that what is the policy if one manager leaves the job and other manager comes in. So if you have not devised policy earlier, if you have not devised a strategy earlier, so you may have some kind of a problem, bigger problem while switching the jobs. But if you have already devised this process of change of the manager, though the manager, it is not necessary that all manager leave the job between the middle of the task, but the process should be defined. Process should be defined, recorded, documented in the files, that what would be the situation while some project manager or some employee leave the job and other would taking the place against him. So that handing over, taking over policy should be very clear. But if that policy is not clear, the device is not mechanized, the system is not in policy, so then the leaving of any lower employee can make a big negative difference over the process of the project. So it is required by the organization, it is required by the owner of project should devise such kind of a policies of switching the jobs, of switching the employees. Okay. uh, Now, obviously, the first one is annual objective. I've said that you have to establish the annual objective, and annual objectives need to have followed by the devising policies. And after that, allocation of resources, and after that, altering organizational structure, because all of these points will be taken into consideration one by one in the coming slides, so I would not be detailing here. I'm just saying their names. So restructuring and reengineering is required. Revised reward and incentive plans are required. Minimize resistance to change. This is the particular point according to your question you have raised right now. So how can you resist the change? That should be minimized, and the resistance to change is minimized only and only if the policies and processes are being devised at prior. So you need to have each and every kind of a policy: the hiring policy, the firing policy, the switching of job policies, the wage policies, the leaving and absentees policies. What you can put a question that, sir, if our manager, project manager is on leave without any prior information for 5 days or 4 days, so what we can do? So there should be some kind of a policy. There should be some kind of a planning of the absenteeism, with having some kind of absentee or absent manager who will be the next charge, who will be next in charge of the project. So that should be devised very earlier. So if all things are devised in form of policies and in form of strategies, so the process are least bother. So you need to revise all the reward and incentive plans. Obviously, you need many people to engage with this implementation phase, and you have to match manager to the strategy, because a strategy requires some kind of a special task, because every manager is not capable to do everything. You need to put some special people for the special task. So you match your manager with the strategies. You develop a strategy supportive culture. It is very much important and very much difficult job of the organization to create a strategy supportive culture, because the strategy is being imposed, being implemented by the higher management. but that strategy is being implemented by the lower management and frontline managers. So if your frontline manager, if your employees do not have such kind of a culture of to support the strategy that is coming from the higher management, so how can you can take the good results of the strategy? So whenever higher management uh, make a strategy or make a policy for any bigger change, so lower down there must be a supportive culture that any kind of a decision is coming from the higher management that has to be completed in time. So that kind of a culture should be should be brought in the organization. Then adapt production and operation processes. Obviously, with every new strategy or with every new kind of a move, the operations and production functions definitely changes. So you need to have such kind of system which can adapt the production and operation processes, the change in the production and operation processes. Then develop an effective human resource function. Obviously, with every strategy, human resources involved. You need new people, you need new managers, you need new frontline force. So you need to have some effective human resource functions, and downsize and furlough as needed. You obviously on requirement you can downsize your organization. You can hire and fire people with the current strategy, because obviously let's say it may many of you who are working in the projects, so the project kind of organization, so uh, it is unfortunately the job security the first question, because after completing of any kind of a project, so involving into the next project is having a big question mark. So I have seen all of the my fellows and friends who are working in the project kind of organization. They are very worried about the next project, that it might it be chance to get into the next project or not. So these kind of insecurities should be obviously avoided, but they exist there. Downsizing means that after completing the project or after having a new project, might be I am needed or not for that kind of a project, not. So this should be avoided, that should be minimized. Similarly, link performance and pay to strategy. Definitely, a strategy needs to be accomplished, and there must be some kind of a reward and performance kind of system for the employees that may they could recognize their efforts. They could get the reward of their efforts, so the morale and motivation can be kept high. Then the purpose of the annual objectives, obviously, why you keep annual objective, because annual objectives is the basis of resource allocation. Because I have said that without any objective, I think admit all. Sorry. Uh, Again, one, two, three, four, five, six people are waiting for me, and now I have admitting them, so they would be joining us very soon. Okay, Ji. So having purpose of the annual objective, it provides basis. Turn off your mics, please, Asher. So annual objective provide you the basis for the resource allocation, because you need money, you need people. So if you are not having objectives, so you don't know how much money you needed, how much people you are requiring, and how much technology and machinery are required. So for that requirement, for that resource allocation, the clear-cut annual objective should be there. So that after 1 year, that after some time, what achievement you are up to. Then the mechanism for the management evaluations, obviously annual objectives, when they are devised, when annual objectives are designed, so the evaluation tactics and techniques are also being designed. What we mean by performance evaluation? Performance evaluation obviously is done or conducted through your achievements. So achievement, obviously achievement needs some objectives. So if there is no objective, there should be there would be no achievement, and if there is no achievement, so obviously how can you figure out the performance of any employee. Similarly, the major instrument of the monitoring progress towards achieving long-term objectives, there is a process needed for the monitoring the progress, because objectives are long-term. After a year, you would be taking your results after a year, but during that 12 months, day by day, you have need to assess your day-to-day operations. Either those operations are going into your required or desired way or not. If they are going according to the desired way, then you can achieve your objectives in time. Otherwise, you cannot. Then the establishing priorities, because annual objectives give you the destination, and that destination obviously explains that what is to be in higher priorities, when what things are to be postponed. Then this is the hierarchy of the policies. When you are going to devise the policies, so policies can be devised at any stage, every stage. You can see that the company strategies that acquire a chain of a retail store to meet our sales growth and profitability objectives. So this is the main strategy, that the chain store is need to have more chains, and profitability the basic objective. Now, what are the supporting policies? Supporting policies, that's how that chain of store will work. All stores will be open from that to that time, Monday to Thursday, and what these are the little strategies and policies to keep that chain of store to be taken into consideration or taken to into physical form. Then all the stores must submit a monthly control data report. All the stores must support those. These are supporting policies. And these supporting policies are for all. You can see that all stores, and all stores. It means that these supporting policies from 1 to 4 are for all stores. Either you are working in East or you're working in West. But after that, you are having some divisional objectives. Now, divisional objective, you can say that you are now classifying your Eastern office with the Western office, with the Northern office, and with the Southern office. So in these, there are 4 divisions: East, West, North, South. So obviously, all those divisions should devise their own objectives according to their scale. So what divisional objectives are? Increase the division's revenue by 10 millions to 2009 to 15 million 2010. So every division would decide about its sale in year. So these would be called divisional objectives, because let's say if I'm having a 4 divisions, East, West, North, South. So every division would be having its own objective, because every division cannot earn 10 millions at all. One division would be having 10 million of target, the other division would be having 8 million of target, third division would be having a 2 million of target. So whatever kind of a scale over there, so you can set the objective for your own division. But you can see that the supporting policy from 1 to 4, it is for all division. It is for a holistic kind of an idea. But divisional objectives are division for the only divisions. So you can see that the beginning in the January 2010, each one of this division salesperson must file the weekly activity and this. Now these are the divisional kind of policies. So 1, 2, 3, the second stage, this 1, 2, 3 are supporting policies at the division scale. And later on, production department objectives. Now every division may be having different production departments. So every production department is making policies for its own. Increase production by 20,000 unit to 30,000 unit. So that objective is being assigned by one productive unit of one division. So you see that the policy of strategy of acquiring a chain of retail store is being divided, subdivided according to the level of management. Okay, so here are you can devise some hierarchy for the policies. And there are some issues that may require a management policy. So you can read it out. What kind of an issues are there which requires a management policy to offer extensive limited management development workshops, to centralize or decentralized employee training activities, to recruit through the employment agencies, to promote from within, or to hire from the outside, to promote on the basis of the merit, on the basis of the seniority, and so many more things. So these are some issues. They may require the management policy, because again, I am referring your question who have asked me that, sir, within the middle of time my project managers have left the job. So you need to have a policy, management policy, to establish some kind of a policy by of the switching jobs, and by filling the gap of the employees. So you need to have all these policies in black and white, in your documents, in your files, that any kind of a problem arises at any time, you can take advice from that policy statements. And the other thing what we have seen, that the resource allocation, and obviously resource allocation is only possible when the objectives are being designed. If you have if you have decided here, then you can see that if you have decided there that the revenue should be increased by 10 million to 15 million, and the production is need to be increased from 20,000 unit to 30,000 unit. So these, if these objectives are clear, so you must need that extra 10,000 units. How many financial resources they are required, how many physical resources are required, how many human resources are required, and how many technological resources are required for that objectives or that target. So some management trade-off decisions required in the strategy implementation. Again, what the term trade-off mean? Trade-off means that when you take something is uh, under control, but while taking control of that, the other things uh, 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 become out of control. If you remember that in the project management, we normally have some kind of a trilogy between quality, cost, and time. So there is a trade-off between these two: quality, cost, and time. One is the question is this: physical resources means, physical resources mean the building, the machineries, the technologies what you are using, and so these are the physical resources: the building, the machinery, the vehicle, all these kind of physical resources are. So in the project, we see that the time, the quality, and the cost, they are having trade-off situation. What does it mean? It means that if you want to lower the cost, then the quality can be compromised. If you want to increase quality, that would be carrying high cost. And if you want to get your project well in time, it again needs to have question mark on your quality and cost as well. So whenever you are controlling the cost, your quality is going out of control. Whenever you are taking care of the quality, your cost is going out of control. So these kind of situations called trade-off situations. So you need to have some kind of trade-off decisions as well. Okay, the last minute is running on. I'm taking uh, I'm taking your attendance here. So after break, I will be taking again. 1 minute. Okay. Just 1 minute. Okay, Ji. Here I've taken print screen of that. Come on, the time is taking out. Okay. One is this, and the second is this, and the third is this. I'll be sharing this with you in the meanwhile. And the fourth slide is this. Okay, I have taken all the attendance here. I'll be sharing all these attendance in a meanwhile. The last minute is going on, and I think it would turn off the Zoom. And when it get turned off, I will be coming into connect. Okay, I was talking about the trade-off decisions. So these are the decisions they you have to decide about these things, because these things or these decisions cannot be taken into one time. Either you go for this or you go for that. So to lay off or furlough, to see growth or stability, if you are seeking growth, so you cannot stable for the longer time. If you want to stable, so then the growth is being compromised. You take the high risk or low risk. So it means that if you go for the high risk, so there would be different kind of a behavior or different kind of attitude of the organization. Or if you go for the low risk, so obviously the attitude and the behavior would be totally different. To be more socially responsible or the more profitable, the two things cannot be done equally at the same time. Either you are going to responsible for socially responsible, or you are going for the profitable purpose. The out you have again, this is the decision that either you go for the outsource the job or pay more to keep job at home. So this is again the decision which is called trade-off decision. You cannot go for both at the same time. So all those decisions where you have to select one side, either A or B. So these kind of decisions are called trade-off decisions. So these are very much important decisions. And again, if the policies are being devised appropriately, these are being documented in appropriate form. So these kind of decisions are very much easy in taking place. Otherwise, if the organization is not well defined, if the policies are not well designed, if they're not documented properly, so any kind of decision become miserable for the organization. Then the conflict, we are dealing with the conflicts because every organization, every project, every department is blessed with the conflicts. And let me tell you that conflicts do not always be the bad one. Some conflicts and more of the conflicts become good for the organization. So how they become good? Because through conflicts, you mm, you are away from the apathy, because apathy should not be there. Apathy means that nobody is taking care of anyone. So that kind of thing or that kind of a mentality is not a good sign for the employees, because when people are in one organization, they have to be care to each other very in good manner, and they have to take care of their will, they take care of their cultural values, their more values. So if they are taking care, so there should be conflicts. So if there are conflicts, it means that the people are alive. And if there is no conflict in the organization, it means that the people are not alive in fact. So the apathy kind of a condition should be avoided. And the conflicts can energize opposing group to action. So this thing also happens, because if one group is getting stronger, then the conflict from the other group making things neutralized. So conflicts, obviously, they are good for the organization as well, because let's say, obviously, a political grouping is the common way of the Pakistani and any kind of organization. So these organizations of the left wing and right wing, if they are both exist, so those conflicts may become the forces and the power of the groups are being neutralized by these conflicts and opposition. They may help in the manager identify the problem, because conflicts arises, then obviously problem are explained, problem are visible. If the conflicts are not there, the problem cannot be figured out. Then the matching the structure with the strategy, that is very, very much important thing. That how this is the last thing of the today's lecture as well, that how that strategy is going to be matched with the structure. Let me tell you that every organizational structure is built with the physical and non-physical resources. Money is involved, the building is involved, the peoples are involved, technology, machinery is there, vehicles are there, the land is there. There's so many things are involved in one course of action. So if the strategy changes, if let's say that strategy is taken into mind, what we have said, this thing, company strategy requires a chain of retail stores to meet our sale growth and profitability objectives. So if you want to enhance your retail stores, the chain of retail store, so do you have enough resources to do that or to follow the strategy? That thing is to be considered seriously in minds. So organization strategy often requires changes in a way the organization is structured, because the structure largely dictates how objectives and policies will be established. So that organization which are making this strategy, so it means that that organization structure does have that capability. So this strategy can be followed. So here the structure is largely dictates how objectives and policies will be established. Objectives and policies established under the geographic organization structure are couched in the geographic term. So having a more retail store or having a enhanced a chain of the retail stores, what do you think that how could it possible? Because it requires some new geographical areas, some new geographical points, some new geographical realizations. Similarly, structure dictates how resources will be allocated. If I select that, yes, I have to increase the retail of that, the chain of that retail store, I will be taking that chain store to the Punjab side, to the Sindh side, to Balochistan side. So it requires the resources to be allocated. If the organization structure is based on the customer group, then the resources will be allocated in that manner. So obviously, every kind of organization structure is different. Some organization structure is directly dealing with the people, with the customer. Some organization structure does not deal with the people. If you are, if you see the government contractors, they do have projects, but they do not deal with the common people. They deal with the government, they deal with the large institutions, but they do not deal with the people. But so many projects are there which deals with the people directly. If you see that the project of planting the trees, the billion tree tsunami kind of a project, or the Danish school kind of a project, or what we can say the Sasti Roti kind of a project, or what the government today's or the present government is taking so many what we can say actions with the different projects which deals with the common man. So it needs some kind of a structural capability. If the structural capability is there, so you go for that kind of change. Otherwise, if your structure is not capable, so you cannot devise that kind of strategy, which is not be taken into action under the present circumstances. Then the structure should be designed to facilitate the strategic pursuit of the firm and therefore allow strategy, follow strategy. Definitely the strategy need to be followed on. And the strategy, how that strategy is going to be followed on, because the structure is designed or structure is capable to facilitate that strategy. So the man or the person behind this strategy are requiring a chain of retail store. The man knows about the organization, that the organization does have such kind of a pool of the resources, so that the chain of retail store can be enhanced to more divisions. Similarly, when a firm changes its strategy, the existing organizational structure may become ineffective. Definitely. If you are putting some strategy into organizations, so present and current structure become ineffective for the strategy. You need to engage more resources, you need to engage more people, you need to engage more resources in the stream. So new strategies to reduce payroll cost may require a change in the span of control. This also needed. So this is actually Chandler's strategy structure relationship. If you go for the new strategy, if it is formulated, it needs new administrative problems emerge, and those emerging problems need organizational performance goes for to organizational performance, because so when the problem arises, the organization performance declines, and when the organization performance declines, is goes to a new organizational structure established, because the current organizational structure is not meeting with the new strategy, and a new organizational structure is needed to be established, and that lead to the organizational performance improves, and when organizational performance improves, we go for the next new strategy. So that's how we go through this spiral, and that's how the organization goes to develop. The symptoms of an ineffective organization structure, I think this thing you have to go through by yourself. What are the symptoms that the organization structure is become ineffective? When too many levels of management, when too many meetings, that I think this is not to be explained one by one, because it is very self-explanatory points. You can ask any question from this slide wherever and whenever you want. Then basic form of structure, I think this thing is a little bit relative for you, but I think you have done this in your project integration management. I think there the functional structure, divisional structure, and strategic basic unit structure are being, and structure is being defined. So I will not be taking detail of these kind of form of structures here, just only to have a glance view of all this. When we are talking about the functional structure, in functional structure, you are having different functional areas, you are having different department of finance, different department of marketing, different department of research and development, HR, IT, etc. When an organization or a project are having different departments like these, so it is called a functional kind of a structure. Functional kind of structure is having their own advantages and disadvantages. I would not be taking your time to explain this, because this is very self-explanatory, and this is out of the scope of our this course, Filal. Then you go for the divisional structure. Divisional structures, obviously you have gotten some idea about the division. When you go to the different division of the organization, they are based on the geographical area, they are based on the product or services area, they are based on the customer based, they are the process based. So you can define some divisional structure as well. When you are going to define divisional structure on your geographic area, so I've given you the idea that you may have different kind of organization division in the east, in the west, in the north, in the south. So you can have 4 different divisions. But if you are going to have some kind of different product based division, so you can take advantage, you can take the example of any firm, like you can take example of Dollins. So for Dollins, they are making washing machines, so that would be a different division. And if they are making AC, so that would be a different divisions. So these are division based on these kind of a product or service. Similarly, that division may be with the customers, and that division you can see easily in your retail store. When you go to any retail store, you can see that the women's area is different division, the children area is different, and rest the men area is different. And you can divide your division according to the processes as well. And if you see the banks, so if you are going to have home loans, so there are certain branches which deals with the home loans, so they are divided with their processes. And if you want to take car loans, so there are different branches who deal with the car loan. If you're going to the Islamic kind of banking, so this is a different kind of a process. So you may have divisions, divisional structure according to the processes. And process divisions, we can take example that extracting raw material is having a different division, and uh, from that raw material, the furnishing of that raw material or taking the required stuff from that raw material is having a different division, and the product manufacturing is having a different division. So it also can be classified by the process nature. Advantages and disadvantages are there. You can read them out by yourself. A strategic business unit structure is also there. It is something like that. A strategic business unit where there is a chief executive officer, and in under that chief executive officer, the chief strategy officer is different, chief finance officer is different, chief operating officer is different, chief information officer is different, and chief human resources is different, and VP market. You will be seeing that you can say that, sir, this is a functional kind of a structure, but that function kind of structure is equally serving the industrial product SBU and consumer product SBU. So if your functional area is equally likely serving the different kind of processes, so that become SBU kind of organization chart. So it is also having some kind of advantages and disadvantages. I think you can go through all this. And the last one is mixed structure. Mixed structure, I think mixed structure is that where the divisions are not actually defined, where peoples are working in a way that they can be shuffled into different divisions. One person is working for the HR, and the same person then can be shifted to some other department. So that shuffling, too much shuffling with the people between the departments, that become a matrix kind of structure. But I told you that structure is not under the scope of our this chapter. So this is all for today's lecture, and let's let all these other things closed. So this is something you can go through slides and you can read it out by yourself. There's no technical kind of a point. There's no difficult kind of a point where I could engage your more time. So if you have any kind of a question regarding the slides or regarding any point, you can ask right now. Otherwise, I'm going to close the screen.